How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today I would like to talk to you about 3 recipes that I consider day 1 recipes and are actually very, very good in Don't Starve. Every player should know these because they replenish the 3 criticals. 1, health, number 2, sanity, and number 3, hunger. So let's get started. The first one is the trail mix. So a trail mix is relatively simple to make with items you have on hand essentially from day 1. You're going to need, for the most optimal version of this recipe, 2 berries. You can easily source them from berry bushes scattered throughout the world at the start, providing you don't start in winter or summer or something like that. 1 roasted birch nut, once again quite easy to come by unless you start in one of those seasons where birch nuts no longer drop, and 1 twig. And making this recipe is going to yield the trail mix. And the trail mix is exceptional at regenerating health, especially for early on players. I mean, for the amount of resources you put into this, you're going to get a plus 30 increase in your health. That is pretty much better than anything else you're going to come across in the early game. You're going to add plus 12.5 points to your hunger and plus 5 to your sanity. So trail mix is exceptionally good in the early game at regenerating health. Obviously, there are going to be more advanced recipes, but we're talking about day 1 recipes. In other words, these are recipes that if you spawn into a world, for example, and Don't Starve together, and you find somebody has already put up a crock pot, most likely you will have access to these resources and you can make this recipe if you need to regenerate some health. Number 2 is going to be for hunger. This is arguably the absolute best recipe in the game. It's meatballs, of course, and you can easily make this out of 1 meat plus basically any filler that is not sticks. So in other words, 1 common recipe you'll see is, for example, 1 morsel or 1 monster meat and 3 berries. Once again, this is a very simple recipe to cook up in the very early game, and it restores a whopping total of 62.5 hunger points. In addition to this, it also gives you plus 3 health and plus 5 sanity. So it is all in all a very, very good recipe to learn early on. Probably the first recipe anybody playing Don't Starve should know. If you are just getting into Don't Starve, this is definitely a recipe you must know. Just learn it, okay? I know there are a lot of recipes in Don't Starve, but you have to take it 1 step at a time, and these are recipes that you will be much better off for knowing. Last one is Taffy. Now, Taffy is a little bit trickier to come by. It requires usually 3 honey and 1 twig. You might be surprised to hear that you can actually put twigs in these recipes. I mentioned twigs in the trail mix recipe, and I mentioned twigs now in the Taffy recipe. Yes, certain recipes do indeed allow you to use twigs in them, and Taffy is one of them. So 3 honey, 1 twig. Honey is generally easy to come by, especially in the early game. There are beehives around the place. You can have somebody help you and Don't Starve together by distracting the bees. Go up, whack the nest, and then get access to the honey with them. It doesn't take that much time. It's relatively accessible, and by being able to harvest honey, you'll have access to the Taffy recipe, which is great for restoring sanity. It's one of the best sanity regenerating early game recipes in the world. Obviously, the best is green mushrooms. If you come across any green mushrooms, be sure to pick them because you can cook them and they will regenerate just as much sanity as the Taffy. You know, once you have taken care of a couple of beehives, you're going to be able to build your own bee boxes, and then honey is essentially a renewable resource, possibly quite early in the game. The Taffy is going to restore a total of 15 sanity for the player. That's the same as the cooked green mushroom. It's also going to restore 25 of your hunger and hurt your health by 3 points. So it's overall well worth the trade-off. Now, I want to make this very clear that there are better recipes in the game, but I think it's important for players, especially in Don't Starve Together, who are just getting into the game, to know these 3 recipes, because this is going to keep you alive a lot longer than a lot of the other new players in the game. Simply knowing these 3 recipes and being able to make them off the top of your head with these resources. Obviously, there are a lot of different resources you can use. One of the best resources for learning about which resources you can use to make these recipes is simply going to the food guide. I'll be linking to that in the description. But being able to cook these 3 recipes is going to keep you alive much longer than your average new player in Don't Starve Together especially. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know in the comment section below which recipes you find the best for restoring hunger, health, and sanity, especially for a newer player. What are the recipes you would recommend to them? I'd be excited to hear. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.